Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to ask my question to the Treasurer. Unfortunately, he's not here, so I'll ask this question to the Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, before I ask my question, I'd like to, on behalf of my people of Alotau, also say my late condolence, sympathies of Marape, who we will dearly miss in this Parliament as well. So I pass my sincere condolence to the family and to the people of Marape and our leaders. Mr. Speaker, a question let me centered around the Non-Tax Revenue Act of 2022 and the government's medium-term revenue strategy 2023 to 2027. Mr. Speaker, while I commend the Treasurer's efforts and of course the government's efforts in terms of working on the strategy to 2023 to 2027 in its efforts to reach a surplus budget by 2027 and of course maintain an annual growth of 5%. And of course we hear the Treasurer trying to bring the budget to a surplus under a 13-year plan. Mr. Speaker, I am equally also concerned of this act and its impact on some of our economic sector departments. That includes fishery, forestry, of course oil palm, and the other sectors, coffee, KIK. Under this act, Mr. Speaker, non-tax revenue raised by these departments are swept and parked in the consolidated revenue. And so it's having a negative impact on how some of the departments that have needed community initiatives that can be supported are now being affected. Of course, most of the revenues raised are put in the consolidated revenue and parked with the Waigani public accounts to fund salaries and wages and ongoing government expenditure. Mr. Speaker, while the interest is noble, I am concerned that it comes to the demise of the sectors in investing for the growth of those sectors. For example, CIC needs to retain money for training and plantation rehabilitations. KIK also needs revenue to also rehabilitate plantations, training programs, oil palm levies, even our log levies. Some of us have been waiting for LADLs for over years. And so what this act is doing is it's denying us revenue that is supposed to come to the districts and impacted the provinces and districts to also undertake service delivery. Mr. Speaker, some of our departments are also struggling to implement their corporate plans. Department of Fisheries, for instance, they want to do coastal and inland fishery programs. They cannot because these revenues are parked in the consolidated revenue and they have to apply again for PIP submissions to support these programs. Why can't we allow them to directly invest in these programs?
We have a point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Napa member go straight to ask a question now. I'm giving people a statement to us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, big in legal background, so Prime Minister can clear legal law. Sorry, Speaker. Can I continue? I'll just dive straight into my questions. Mr. Speaker, can the government undertake a review of the NTRA Act 2022 that is having a demise on our economic sector departments and statutory bodies? Number two, Mr. Speaker, under the NTRA Act, can the Prime Minister assure my people of Alotau that our log export development levies that were held in trust for the last 6 years close to 13 million can be released. And finally, Mr. Speaker, can the Prime Minister inform the people of Oro and Milne Bay, especially the district of Alotau as Oil Palm Development District, on the oil palm shares paid dividends that was paid in cash by New Britain Palm Oil when they procured these shares in 2010. These shares held in trust by the state for the last 15 years for both these provinces. Can the Prime Minister look into these reports on the fully paid shares that were paid in cash and held in trust by government? I want to also acknowledge that the government has released 10 million on each of those provincial dividend shares, but respectfully, these funds have been held by state for the last 15 years. Thank you, Mr.
Honorable Prime Minister.
All right. Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And a good pleasure looking you. Now, I'll get one walk. We'll come back along House Law people one more time. As I'm through, Milako, thank you, Long. Very good question. A series of questions asked by the member for Alotau. Before I get to answering these questions, I just want to say a big thank you to all members of Parliament as your last week 50th anniversary occasions, or in your province's 50th anniversary occasions, and to the autonomous Bougainville government. We say thank you to 21 provinces and the Bougainville government, as well as all districts and our nation's capital, led by Governor Pakop, for wonderful 50th anniversary celebrations. Our country was visited by many of our visitors, and we do acknowledge the work that each of you leaders have put into this occasion that has passed. The good question asked by a member for Alotau, I want to firstly say he asked for a possible review, and review is not out of reach. The question is correct and in order. Certainly we can have a review and to see the mechanics of NTRA, that it must work well without killing the golden goose that lays the egg, so to speak. The rationale of NTR coming on board, Mr. Speaker, was such where many of the boards, they are not open for public scrutiny except through cabinet. So their work plan comes through cabinet. Of course, later on the minister does submit annual reports to the Parliament. But we have observed over time, and this backdates into possibly 2 or 3 governments up till the Pangu administration. Nothing against the boards, they operate by law, but the boards, to the understanding of all of us, the boards operate scrutiny of the minister and the cabinet process, and not fully to the Parliament. It is the budget process that Parliament has transparency and full knowledge of what is happening all over the place. We've seen many times when a board, for instance, is investing in PIP, and planning department also allocates similar money for PIP. And so there has always been overlap in terms of board's function with little scrutiny, except to the cabinet process and our own government PIP program. So we felt it was important, without compromising a percentage that must be held back and the core recurrent expenditures of those agencies. The residual balance of all this fund must be swept into the waiting public accounts, because the budget process is a transparent process where the entire leadership, all members on both sides of the House, we sit through and we have a look at the money plan for the oncoming year. So to try to mitigate, and not to mention the last few years, but I want to make mention on earlier years, when we have supplementary budgets, when we have surpluses, agencies were hoarding funds and running parallel programs, running their own programs, many times also pet projects, that is not geared towards retiring the major focus of government. We said let's sweep the excess residual into Waigani public accounts. The agency or sector concerned keeps a residual, and the formula, when I was finance minister, the formula we went was 90-10, 90-10. 90 swept in, 10 is maintained by the department. And that is at net. The gross element of fund is retained. The gross depicts the recurrent expenditures. The department in its own work plan, the annual work plan, retains what it needs to retain, and the surplus, the profit, if they're making profit in simple terms, 90% is swept into NTRA or to the Waigani public accounts. I want to indicate that there's a teething issue. Administration of NTRA may not be fully as intended for, and I want to give assurance to the member in his good question that we will certainly look at this. And I still hold view, and our government policy view still stands, that the excess, the balance, the windfall, the profit, 90% must come to Waigani public accounts. It's not only in the statutory bodies like fisheries and forestry and the agriculture sector agencies, also for the Kumul companies, Kumul Mineral, Kumul Petroleum. They must support in the first instance the budget support of Waigani public accounts, the residual to keep those companies or those statutory bodies running is maintained. I want to give assurance that an NTR review is being undertaken, in fact, and for us to really finalize this so that we don't kill the golden goose that lays the egg. It is still laying the egg, but a windfalls not kept at the board. Super majority at 90% comes to Waigani public accounts, support the national development agendas instead of controlled by boards at their own level, sometimes funding parallel programs, sometimes doing things without full scrutiny of the entire parliament, except themselves and the structure that they report to. So proposals being thrown around on some of the state assets in this province, especially in an endeavor to make provinces become economic centers, self-sufficient, self-reliant, doing things they have to do. And so we're looking at that. All in all, having said this, about 40 million kina is owed to the two provinces. 10 million has already come forth. Members of the two provincial governments, you are at your leisure to ask your provincial government's concern as to what happened to the 10 million kina that was sent. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.